Okay, so for those of you who are here, I've got something that probably give you a little more understanding, open up your awareness about iodine. Okay, now iodine is extremely important, kind of overlooked because it is a trace mineral and it's found in lots of things. And sometimes it goes to a point where you have to take iodine supplements because of various reasons. But let's get a little more uh, deeper knowledge about exactly how, why, and how these iodine deficiencies come up and what you can do about it. Okay, so let's find out why iodine as they pronounce it, why is it important? Now, in the early stages of child development, it is needed for a healthy brain and for even your limbs and your fingers and also development of the body, uh, uh, seeding in the reproductive organs. All this starts at the stage of a baby, and the iodine has to go to the mother. Okay, and you'll always find that typically in a lot of cases, uh, pregnant mothers are given an iodine supplement. Okay, so it's extremely important for your reproductive system even as you become an adult. It's really, really important. And to also detox heavy metals, because sometimes if you eat a lot of shellfish and things like that, so there is a chance that you might get traces of mercury and heavy metals. So iodine is something that can prevent the breakdown because of these heavy metals. Okay, and they can kind of block them and slowly get you detoxed on that. Now, interestingly, so for those who have very high insulin, this kind of can control your insulin levels. So if you're very hyperinsulitive, uh, you can think or go approach a doctor and find out what kind of dosage and what kind of iodine supplement you can take, so that you can attack it. So very effective for people with diabetes because it helps you do that sugar control, and that's kind of really important because we always battle with sugar control. And of course, metabolism of the thyroid. The thyroid, of course, the gland, it produces a couple of things which we'll talk about, thyroxine and stuff like that. And for it to create it, to get that, the essence of the thyroid, or to make it work more efficiently, iodine is important. And I think probably everyone knows that. And you'll find it, they'll say iodized salt. Now, the only problem is there enough iodine in the salt? Okay, we'll find out how much do you actually need. But thyroid depends on, coming back to it, depends on a component called thyroxine, which they call T4. Okay, and there is a kind of a conversion of this T4 that becomes T3, which is done by the liver and the kidney, and the liver plays a more important role, and it's probably the workhorse to create this and to convert that some of the T4 into T3. Okay. Now, the thing is that you also need other trace elements, okay, that is, or the phytonutrients, okay. Selenium is required, okay. And that's a kind of a necessary catalyst for you to make the T3. Now, the problem is, uh, with the industrialization and of everything, including how we grow our vegetables and our fruits and stuff like that, there is not a lot amount of iodine left in the soil because it's just been totally extracted over centuries, and nobody has gone and put it back. So it's very essential. I mean, it is going to become something of the future where they are going to have to start putting back trace minerals into the soil so that it comes into the foods. And these foods we consume directly as vegetables, or even the animals or birds, and all the stuff that we eat, they eat these vegetables and these plants, and eventually that comes to us. So it's extremely important. So iodine is one of them. And to remember, notably, that unless you live very close to the ocean, maybe about 50, 60 kilometers, so maybe 100 kilometers, you're not going to find much iodine in the soil. Okay. So your requirement is typically about 150 mg per day. Okay. And you're not going to get that in salt, because I don't think there is a little bit of iodine in salt, but it is not iodized to the level that is required because who knows? I mean, they've come up with some kind of a standard and I think that's right. But typically, this is what your body needs. So it's quite a lot. Stress is another thing that can really bring down your iodine. Okay, so stress can be biological stress and it can be even mental stress. So, always sit in that 5 to 10 minutes of meditation and clear your mind. It always helps. Now, cruciferous vegetables. Now, if you eat a lot of cabbage, broccoli, um, um, cauliflower, radish, I mean, there are a lot of cruciferous vegetables out there that you might be consuming. This tends to lower your iodine in your body. So, if you're somebody that does consume this, now unknowingly, of course, you are actually going to bring down the levels because it requires iodine. There's nothing wrong in eating these vegetables. Okay, don't stop eating it, but just make sure you're getting a little more iodine in your diet. Okay. Now, if you're exposed to pesticides, fungicides, insecticides, probably typically you might be working in an environment where this continuously gets, or probably in your own house you might be pumping, mosquito sprays every day. This is something that's going to also lower your iodine because, again, remember, the body uses iodine to break off any toxins as well. So, the more toxins you bring into your environment, the more stress is there for you to have iodine in your diet. Now, if you have estrogen, now for women that are pregnant or they start to breastfeed and things like that, the estrogen levels are very high, and the body needs iodine in that case. So, in many cases, when lactating mothers, sometimes the doctors actually give them an iodine supplement because they find their iodine is just crashed. So this is something that you kind of have to keep around. And if you can't get it through your food, you'll have to probably get a supplement, and you'll get a prescription from a doctor to give it to you because there are many versions of it around. But remember that just a a drug or a supplement that is just they just call iodine supplement may not be enough. Okay, because it requires other trace elements. Like I said, it requires selenium. Okay, and selenium can be found in small, very tiny amounts on the skin of garlic, but you can also get it through Himalayan pink salt. Okay, there'll be some traces of that, but the amount and levels that you need probably have to be adjusted. Okay, now if you have a damaged liver, the first thing that can start happening is that your body does not have the ability to convert and absorb the T4. Okay. And one of the other reasons is that maybe you've had your gallbladder has been removed and many other, maybe other complications are there, or the quality of your bile is not good enough. So, yeah, that's what happens. We take so many kind of medications to bring our acidity down that your bile becomes kind of very weak and it cannot absorb, cannot break down certain things. So, uh, acidity of your if you do have acidity, there is a sign that there's something else going wrong, and one of them is that you probably have a high level of insulin. When your insulin levels are high, what happens is because of insulin resistance, the body has to now divert that food somewhere. The fats and all of that has to get diverted. So it'll create fat, it'll create cholesterol, and it will definitely create more bile. So you kind of get into a hyperacidity situation, not because of what you're eating directly, but the habits on which you're eating and which we've covered entirely in this. Earlier I've covered this. And for those who are members of the Dynamic Vitality Program, they definitely know this. So that's kind of important to remember that. Symptoms, of course, how do I know I've got less iodine? Now, the first one is overweight. You just put on weight just like that. And people who have a thyroid problem are generally very obese. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's just part of life. And sometimes people are born without proper regulation of their thyroid. And it can be a genetic deficiency. But sometimes this doesn't happen by birth. It can happen in between. And you suddenly start putting on weight. But that's not enough as a symptom. You've got to have a couple of more. And that will kind of give you a kind of a thumb rule. Okay, maybe I'm iodine deficient. So brain fog, you can't think, you're slow in your mind. Something is you just can't keep your attention. you get into depression. This is also another sign. And some certain psychiatric disorders like panic attacks and things that can be associated with the lack of iodine. And there's been studies that cancers are caused, can be avoided if there's a right level of iodine. So lower levels of iodine can actually lead to even cancers. And like I said, iodine also removes toxicity from the blood. So toxicity and cancer are kind of related quite closely. Fibrocystic problems, um, PCOD, they're all related. There's so much of strong studies saying that there is a relation because of iodine. And for men, of course, it's the prostate enlargement can be also linked to iodine. So, wow, okay. So, and migraines, okay. And of course, very commonly you would see is the goiter or thyroid enlargement. Your thyroid becomes very big because it's weak and it's trying to do much more. And obviously, it's because there is a lack of iodine. Now, something a little surprising also is if you have a very dry mouth, saliva deficiency, or dry eye can be caused by a lack of iodine. So, if you have a couple of these symptoms and if they have more than just one, you could kind of say, okay, I might need to go and verify what are my iodine levels, and go and do a test and see what you can do about it. But remember, there is something you need to take. Okay. And while they'll give you certain things to take, they may not be extremely effective. So, what can we eat and what can we do about it? Now, since there is so little iodine in the soil, if you're going to eat strawberries, you need to eat about 11 cups of strawberries to get the required amount of 150 mg of iodine that you need. Now, people in Japan, of course, they have much more, they have a higher level, maybe 5 to 10 times more than people in the Western world in their diets. Okay, but coming back to this, 6 eggs a day. Yeah, that's a good source. And make sure you get, kind of organically fed uh, chickens that give you the eggs or any other egg. It's not a problem. It's not chicken egg. It could be duck egg. It could be any type of egg, but just make sure that they are getting the right kind of feed. Okay, because if they don't have iodine in their feed, you're definitely not going to get a good quality egg. And one of the things that you can do is because of the color of the yellow, you can always make out how much of more nutrients are there. The more yellow it is, typically there is more nutrients. And also, if you're eating an egg, don't throw out the yellow. They say stories about, oh, there's cholesterol in it. Eating food with cholesterol does not give you cholesterol. The liver has to process it. It's not something that can just directly get into your system. It has to be processed by the liver before anything happens. So don't get into that myth. Eat if you don't want to eat 6 eggs, it's fine. If you want to eat one egg, but don't throw out the yellow. 2 cups of yogurt, okay, natural. And if you're definitely doing soya milk, just make sure that it is fermented because fermented soya products are a lot better because the non-fermented ones can put a strain again on your iodine. So it will also reduce your iodine. Now, what I can suggest is if you would like to go down the route of taking a supplement, there is what we call sea kelp. Okay, that grows in the ocean, and there's a not only does because it grows in the ocean, it's vegetarian. Okay, and that's something that the body will absorb pretty easily. It's not much of a digestive process that's required, and it comes with many trace elements that your body needs: selenium, molybdenum, manganese. I mean, there are a lot of trace elements that can come with the kelp capsule. Of course, you got to look behind the label to see what all is there. But typically, sea kelp capsules have not just the iodine that you require, it also has a lot of trace elements. Now, you've got to take quite a bit of them. You've got to take about 5 a day. You can split them over the day, two in the morning, two in the afternoon, one in the night, whatever combination you want to do. But even if you're too scared, oh, five is too much, then yeah, maybe you can do two or three. It's up to you. But of course, if you can always lean back on natural food, there are a lot of other foods that have iodine naturally. Just look them up; you'll find them all over the place. And only thing is, they have to be available. That becomes a tricky part. And while you think you'd get it from fruits very easily now, like I said, there's not much iodine in the soil. So we are back again to a point where we have to probably depend on good quality of iodized salt, eggs, yogurt. But if you definitely have some of these iodine symptoms, which I had mentioned earlier, at least try the sea kelp capsules for probably a week or two, and then you can determine if there's been any improvement. So I hope this has helped you understand how important iodine is, and we'll see you in the next video.